Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to share this workshop with you. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Oops. Super excited to share this workshop with you. I actually gave a workshop of this title a couple of months ago now. I think it was like November, and I've updated it. I've learned a lot over the past few months, and I decided it would be good to bring back my new learnings as well as kind of the original key information that I shared. So yeah, this is very much an introductory talk. We're going to try and understand what NFTs are and why you might be interested in them. I'll do a bit of housekeeping before I jump in. So if you're listening on LinkedIn or Facebook, well, LinkedIn primarily, you can comment in the section, also I think on YouTube. But if you are on Twitter, just mention me or use the hashtag intro to NFTs, and I'll be sure to check your question when we get to the question time. My Twitter handle is, I think, at the top of every slide. So if you ever need to tag me, just you can find it there. Luckily, there's a lot of ground to cover, so I'm aiming to leave about 15 minutes towards the end for questions. So I guess with that, we can get started. Cool. Okay, so introduction. So my name is Esther. I'm a product manager. I work in tech, and outside of work, I use technology to create things, ranging from newsletters and more recently to NFTs. And I thought it'd be kind of useful just to give a bit of a personal insight into why I'm personally so excited about NFTs. The space is really early, and I think it's going to be a while before people really get it and a while before kind of we really see the fruits of it. So you really need kind of a personal interest in order to sustain you over that time. So personally for me, I'm an art lover. I love great art exhibitions. I'm an artist myself, but my personal art medium of choice is fiction writing. I also love new technology. Obviously, I work in tech, but I also have a strong passion for emerging technologies, which is probably linked to my love for sci-fi. And lastly, my original degree was law. And one of the things that particularly attracted me to the NFT space was the concept of smart contracts and the impact I can foresee them having on our legal systems in the future. So I hope that you also have kind of those little things that pull you towards the NFT space, and feel free to share them in the chat. One comment has come through, someone asking what is happening here. This is an introduction to the world of NFTs. I'm going to give just some of the key things I've learned over the last few months, hopefully to give you guys an insight into NFTs yourselves. All that to say, I'm really excited to have you here, and let's get started. One quick cheeky plug before I start. I also have an NFT project. So in addition to kind of my interest and discovering the space, I've decided to fully immerse myself in the space and start my own NFT project. You can find out more about that later. So yeah, let's jump into things. Today we're going to cover 5 main topics. We'll start by looking at what NFTs are. We'll then explore the different types of NFTs. Next, we'll look into the life cycle of an NFT. Later, we'll learn some key terms. And then lastly, we'll look at the broader ecosystem within which NFTs live. So the first question on everyone's lips, what are NFTs? Well, firstly, NFT stands for non-fungible token, and it's a term used to describe a unit of data stored and trapped on a blockchain, such as Ethereum. Now, I know what you're thinking. You thought an NFT was a piece of digital art. Well, a lot of current NFTs are linked to digital art, but that's not the definition. An NFT, that token, that unit of data, can be used to represent ownership of digital art, but it can also be used to represent ownership of many other things, including both digital and physical assets. This is why one of the ways people describe NFTs is as a certificate of ownership, and it's specifically a certificate of ownership stored on a blockchain. But what is a blockchain? Some might be wondering, and that's a very good question. So you can think of a blockchain like a huge global database that nobody owns. Rather than being stored on one computer or a set of owned servers, a blockchain distributes the information across computers or nodes all over the world. So if one computer shuts down or is compromised, that data still exists on thousands of others. This decentralization has two main benefits that make blockchain technology and NFTs really interesting. The first is reliability. So the distributed nature of data on blockchains means that the data is almost impossible to destroy, which is super useful because it means that in theory, 100 years from now, it will be simple to prove ownership of something stored on the blockchain. Secondly, transparency is another huge benefit that we get from blockchain technology. Data on a blockchain is public, so anyone can see it and analyze it. This means that all blockchain data is publicly verifiable. You can check who owns this, you can see who they bought it from, you can kind of see the chain of custody from its very origin. Now, when we're talking about reliability and transparency of data on the blockchain, this obviously extends to NFTs. Everything that happens on the blockchain leaves a permanent record. And when you are, for example, buying something and contracting a transaction on a blockchain, lots of different data points are involved. So let's take an example. So let's say you buy this ape from the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection. Everything in this transaction leaves a mark on the blockchain. So there's a unit of data or token associated with the item itself on the blockchain. The smart contract created by the Bored Ape Yacht Club team is also represented on the blockchain. There's been a unit of data to identify the seller's wallet that the NFT is transferred from, and there's a unit of data to identify the buyer's wallet that the NFT is transferred to. And lastly, the overall transaction itself is also represented on the blockchain. So all of this, every single aspect of this transaction can be seen by anybody, anywhere in the world. There is full transparency. So because of blockchain technology, you can buy a digital good and prove that you own it. The blockchain records, the blockchain remembers, I like to say. This is a revolution in technology that has brought us NFTs. I try my best not to go into the too technical there, so feel free to ask questions if there's anything that you didn't understand or you want me to go deeper, but we'll go on to the next section now. So the next topic we're going to look at is types of NFTs. This is potentially my favorite bit. Official categorization of NFTs, and I've tried to make a comprehensive list of the main types of NFTs that I have observed. There's definitely overlap in the categories, and some NFTs will fit into several categories. So yeah, let's bear that in mind as we go. But yeah, let's jump in. So the first category of NFTs that you should know about are PFPs. PFP stands for profile picture. This type of NFT features a portrait-style image of a person or humanoid-style animal or robot. PFPs are all about art and identity. When you buy a PFP, you get art from an artist, but you also get membership into a community. Sometimes the community is about status and influence. For example, owning CryptoPunks gives you access to a community that includes a number of celebrities, whereas a community such as Women and Weapons is a community with a shared interest in art and women in the art NFT space. So yeah, these are some of probably some of my favorite PFPs, but there are loads. I'm sure if you go on any marketplace, you'll see lots more. The second category of NFTs is digital art. Some may say fine art or high art, but what we're essentially talking about here is art for art's sake. It's the kind of art that you could see on the walls of a gallery if it was created on a canvas. Now, this is why I used the word revolution a little earlier. A few years ago, it was more challenging for digital artists to make money from their art. There was no reliable or verifiable mechanism for them to sell digital art online. But now with the blockchain, things are different. Sorry. Of course, previously they could have created their art and got it printed, but with NFTs, they can sell their digital art online in its digital form, which is really the new here. As you can see from the examples I've given here, prices range, but it's just the same in the traditional art market. A Banksy sells for millions, but the work of an emerging artist might be a lot lower. I think that's important to bear in mind also, that some people look at the NFT space as a place to speculate and make quick money, but normal market forces apply here. Value is subjective and can change over time dependent on various factors. But I think this aspect of the NFT space is obviously really exciting. We're seeing a lot of artists kind of push the boundaries. So you see Human One by Beeple, which is, I guess it's a mix of digital and physical. So it has a physical form, even though it's a piece of digital art. And something like Dreaming at Dusk by Itzel Yard is something that is really making best use of the digital form. But yeah, there's so many amazing digital artists that are selling NFTs, and you should definitely check them out. The next category that we want to look at is gaming NFTs. As you may know, gaming is responsible for pushing forward many emerging technologies. We've seen in the VR space that gaming is really popular, and it's definitely a fast-growing sector of the NFT market. Gaming NFTs are generally in-game assets. So buying the NFT allows you to participate in the game, and there are lots of different kinds of games. So if you see there, the second one there, CryptoKitties, is a basic breeding game. You get two cats or CryptoKitties, take them to the CryptoKitties website, and you can breed them to create a new CryptoKitty, which is also a new NFT. Zrun, the first one there, is an example of a play-to-earn game. When you buy a Zrun horse, you can enter it into races to win cash prizes. You can also offer your horse as a breeding horse and charge a fee. So many games are currently in development, and traditional gaming companies are also exploring bringing an NFT component to their existing games. And something you'll see in a lot of NFT projects, more the PFP projects that were in that first category that we looked at, they put on their roadmap that they're going to create a game. And so your PFP becomes a in-game asset that you can use when that game comes to, if that game comes to fruition. The next category we're going to look at is sports collectibles. I think it's an interesting category because you'll hear collectibles used as a name for all kinds of NFTs, but I think there's a difference between NFTs that you collect to accumulate as opposed to NFTs that you collect for their subjective value and the fact that you like them. I think the reason I call these specifically sports collectibles is because with these NFTs, the aim is to kind of accrue collection, sometimes get as many as you can, and other times get the rarest ones that you can. So the NBA has found a lot of success with Top Shot, which is collectible clips from basketball games, and So Rare have brought the physical footballer cards that we were used to in our childhood into the digital space. These are two sports examples, but I'm sure we'll see kind of other sports or even teams adopting this category, and lots of other kind of areas where you can collect and accumulate things coming into the digital space as collectibles as well. The next category is digital or virtual land. Very simply, you can buy land in digital worlds, or sometimes known as metaverses or the metaverse. Your ownership of the land is proven by the NFT, and holding the NFT gives you right to develop the land. You can create a digital art gallery, a concert venue, a game, or just a relaxing landscape. I'm personally really excited to see impossible architectures that would have been impossible in the real world. Kind of surreal type architecture will be possible in the metaverse and in these digital places. And also immersive digital spaces with really cool educational or entertaining experiences are something that we can expect from this category. Just as in the real world, many factors impact land value. the same is true in these digital worlds. So, for example, if you're right next door to the digital equivalent of Times Square, your land is likely to have higher value. There will definitely be interesting developments in this space in the coming months and years. So it's definitely an area to look out for. Next category is music. So musicians are definitely experimenting with NFTs. This is music with the ability to change its composition. It may sound different. Let's take it back. So yeah, there are many different kinds of music NFTs, and I've got 3 of them here. So the first one is a music video. So this music video by an artist named Latasha was sold as an NFT. It was a one-of-one NFT. So one person in the world owns that music video. Obviously, it can be viewed by lots of different people, but the ownership on the blockchain sits with one person. Another model we've seen is selling albums as NFTs. And in the case of Domino and the President's album, he sold copies of the album. Each album was made of 7 tracks and 7 artworks, each track corresponding to an artwork. And he sold those. And then async music is kind of a bit different, and it's kind of a new development made possible by the digital space. And I'll read the description from their website because it's a bit complex, and I think musicians will probably understand this a lot better than most of us. They say, this is music with the ability to change its composition. It may sound different each time you come back to listen. This is achieved by breaking down a song into separate layers called stems. Each stem has multiple variants for its new owner to choose from. In this way, a single async music track contains many unique combinations of sounds. And as kind of someone who's not like a professional musician, that even still sounds really exciting to me. So the idea is that rather than putting out one single track, musicians can kind of put out almost like a menu of different items, maybe different versions of the strings or the piano, and each time you kind of click play, you'll get like a different version of that track, which is super exciting. So it's definitely an area to kind of look into and see what comes out of that. Cool. The next category is literature. So writers are also experimenting with NFTs, and we've seen a number of different forms. So poetry NFTs are something really interesting that we've seen on the blockchain. So these are kind of full-length poems, combinations of sometimes video or imagery along with the words of the poem. We also see comics on the blockchain. So Huxley is a comic series that is being released as NFTs. They also have PFPs, and they also have kind of other items in their collection. I think another kind of interesting element of this is what we're talking about with a lot of NFTs is IP, and Huxley are actually taking their IP to make films, and that will obviously be of benefit to the NFT holders as well. So that's something that's happening as well. So as I put them, that's my NFT project, which is a PFP. As I said, Huxley also have PFPs, and we're seeing a lot of literary-inspired, literary-related PFPs coming up as well. And lastly, obviously, you can put a book on the blockchain. So just as we've seen books be a staple of kind of Web2, as you might call it, digital books, there's also now the ability to put books on the blockchain. And there'll be a number of interesting different things that come from that. So for example, unlike the book that you buy from Amazon, an NFT-based digital book, you can actually sell on to someone else. So it'll be interesting to see what developments come there as well. Next category is phygital. So this is the combination of NFTs, digital with the physical world. So we'll go through these 2 examples. Antonym is an NFT collection, and they are kind of digital artworks, but each holder is eligible to redeem a limited edition designer art toy, as you can see there. And then the second example is from StockX, well known for their kind of sneaker flipping technology. they have a new technology which is an NFT token representing ownership of a physical pair of trainers. So those trainers exist both on the blockchain and also stored in the StockX vault. You can redeem the trainer, so you can get them to send it to you, and that burns the NFT. But if you just want to kind of own the trainer, you can buy the NFT, and then maybe in a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of years, you can then sell it on, and another person can benefit from that. So that's an interesting model that we're seeing now as well. And last but not least, probably my favorite category is utility NFTs. So these NFTs are all about art and access. You get art plus access to a real world utility. The utility might be an event, for example. The VFriends NFT there gives you access to 3 years of a conference. Crypto packaged goods and Lauslam's Last Slice give you access to what I call knowledge communities, which is people of like mind in a particular industry, sharing information and collaborating. My prediction is that one day NFTs will be as common as websites. Every brand and business will have them. And I think when we get there, utility will be at the forefront. Consumers will be asking, what does this NFT give me access to? So I think utility NFTs are definitely one to keep an eye on. And I'm super excited to see what people come up with in this regard. So moving on, we'll now look at the life cycle of an NFT. And just before I jump into it, just to say this is a really quick run through. I have another talk that I do for creators and artists, which goes into the process in a lot more detail. But yeah, let us get started on this. Okay, so NFTs, generally speaking, are created by creators. And I use the word creators because obviously there are lots of different types of NFTs. As we saw earlier, there's visual art, music, literature, photography, etc. Whatever the art form, the first part of the NFT lifecycle is the creation process. Next step is listing. So listing simply involves putting the NFT up for sale. Artists can list their NFTs on special websites known as minting websites, or they can list their NFTs on marketplaces such as Foundation and OpenSea. An important step related to listing is minting. Minting simply means to add the NFT to the blockchain. Sometimes an artist will mint as they list their item for sale, but alternatively, they can do something called lazy minting, where they list the item, but it's only actually minted to the blockchain when someone buys that NFT. Step 3 is the actual sale of the NFT, and we've seen a bunch of different methods for this. So you have auction, where the NFT creator can auction the The second one is Dutch auction. In a Dutch auction, the item is listed for a certain price. So let's say 3 ETH, and the price reduces until it reaches a certain lower price. So you can say it goes down by 0.5 ETH each day or 0.1 ETH each hour, and the seller will set a certain minimum to say only until when it gets to that price, it stops going down, and someone will have to buy at that price. On most NFT websites, you'll see a buy now button. Some NFTs are listed and you can just buy them straight away. I need to think of a better term for this, but a collection release is essentially when an NFT artist or a creator releases a collection of anything from 2 to, let's say, 2,000 NFTs. And a large quantity drop of unrevealed NFTs is something that's quite common in the space. With very large collections, generally around the 10K marks or anything from 5K upwards, really, a creator will sell unrevealed NFTs. This means that all of the buyers have an equal chance to purchase the more rare NFTs within the collection. And probably like a couple of days or sometimes up to a week or so after the collection sells out, or after a certain period, the artist or the creators will reveal which NFTs each person has bought. So the next step in the NFT journey is ownership. So once the NFT has been sold and bought, the buyer now owns that NFT. As I said earlier, an NFT is essentially proof of ownership. And obviously ownership comes with certain rights. One thing I will say is that owning an NFT does not give you an absolute right over the intellectual property. It really depends on the rights the creator transferred, which can usually be found on the NFT listing or the creator's website. Generally speaking, you will not get commercial rights unless expressly stated. What you will have, however, are display rights. So you can display the NFT in your wallet or elsewhere. And that elsewhere being in your physical space. So you can display NFTs in the real world using digital frames like this one by Token Frame. You can also display your art in the metaverse as well. So there are a number of digital places, as we mentioned earlier, where you can just display your art or set up a gallery. And this is also a benefit that comes from owning an NFT. Online access is also something that you can get from owning certain NFTs. An example being Mintgate. It allows NFT creators to restrict certain website content, such as web pages or videos, to holders of their NFT. So if you were a musician, you could have a live show on your website and only holders of your NFT would be able to access that live show. Some NFTs give you in real life access. So that's access to things such as conferences and merchandise. And then the last step in the NFT lifecycle is resale. So an NFT owner also has the right to resell their NFT along with any attached benefits to another person. This is facilitated by secondary marketplaces such as OpenSea and Rarible, and the same NFT can be resold time and time again. So next, we're going to look at some key terms in the NFT space. I've only got time to give kind of super brief definitions, so I definitely advise you to kind of note some of these down and do some further research and further exploration. Okay, so the first term that's important to know is smart contracts. Earlier, I stated that the two benefits of blockchain technology are reliability and transparency. And with these two qualities, smart contracts on the blockchain enable what we call trustless transactions. Smart contracts are the vehicle to transfer ownership of an NFT. They are written as code and committed to the blockchain. When an event outlined in the contract is triggered, like the submission of the NFT's listing price, the code executes and transfers ownership to whoever provided that price. You can buy and sell things on blockchain without knowing the other person and without a middleman, because the smart contract verifies that the various elements of the transaction are present and true. In the NFT space, you'll also hear a lot of people saying the word drop. This is very simple. It's just referring to a new NFT release, and obviously it's kind of adopted from sneaker culture. You'll hear people talking about floor price. Now, floor price is the lowest price of an NFT in a particular collection on the secondary market. This is not necessarily the lowest price that's been paid, it's the lowest listed price. So it's the lowest price that you need to pay in order to buy into that collection at that current time. You'll hear people talking about sweeping the floor. This term this term refers to the act of buying a number of NFTs at or near the floor price. So if the floor price, as we saw in that last one, was 1.6, you could buy the ones that are all 1.6, maybe some ones that are 1.7, and that will be referred to as sweeping the floor. And obviously then that raises the overall floor price of the collection. Rarity is another important term in the space. Rarity obviously refers to how rare a particular NFT is in the context of its collection. Some NFT collections have a set of attributes or properties. Each attribute will have several traits. For example, if the attribute is hair color, the traits may be black, brown, blonde, etc. Each trait will be more or less rare within the collection. And the overall rarity is derived from a combination of traits that the NFT has. And rarity can, in some cases, affect an NFT's price. Some people go for the more rare NFTs in a collection, whereas some others go for the NFTs that they like, that look the best to them. Gas price is another important term. So gas refers to the transaction fee for transacting on the blockchain. Ethereum gas fees have been very high over the time that I've been within the NFT space. Um, and depending on what you buy, you can kind of pay quite a bit more for gas. I think the way to phrase it is you might buy an NFT that has a certain amount, and in some cases, gas can actually be higher than the amount being charged for the NFT. This is actually getting better. I think more recently, NFT or smart contract developers have put in a lot of work to make smart contracts more efficient, so gas prices are more reasonable, and there are changes being made that will hopefully bring gas prices down. A term that is also important is gas wars. So the term gas wars refers to high gas prices that occur when many people are attempting to conduct transactions at the same time. Um, yeah, and it can be quite stressful. And I think the last time we want to just be aware of is whales. So whales are NFT collectors who own a large amount of NFTs and have a lot of cryptocurrency at their disposal. With new collections, you might see whales buy a large number from the collection straight away. And what they'll do is they'll keep the most rare ones or the ones that they like and sell the rest off at the secondary market. They have that kind of money to play with. Okay, so we're coming to the end. So if you do have questions, please feel free to add them in the comments and I will try to get to them shortly. But the last topic I just wanted to quickly cover is just looking beyond NFTs. So NFTs are part of a broader ecosystem of technologies and products that we like to call Web3. And I want to quickly take you through some of the things you will learn more about as you get deeper into the NFT and the Web3 space. Each item I cover in this section could be a whole workshop in itself, so I'll definitely encourage you to take notes, do your own research, and ping me with topics you find particularly interesting, and I'll see if I can cover it in a future workshop. Cool. Okay, let's jump into it. Okay, so there are several blockchains, and they each have their respective cryptocurrency. Most of the NFTs you'll encounter and that I have mentioned today are on the Ethereum blockchain, and you pay for them in Ether. Other blockchains include Tezos, Solana, Polygon, and Cardano. After a few days in the NFT space, you'll start hearing about DAOs. A DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, and they are essentially digital collectives of people with a shared goal. They can range from buying collectives, where they're kind of clubbing together to pool their money to buy more expensive NFTs, all the way to kind of company-like organizations. So imagine the company you work for that being kind of a purely digital organization where everyone kind of works towards a company goals, but it's decentralized. It's a really interesting space. I will definitely do a workshop on DAOs in the future. But yeah, it's a super interesting emerging space. Discord servers. So Discord servers are really a staple of the NFT community. Discord, as probably a lot of you know, is a group messaging app, and it has been heavily adopted by the NFT community. A lot of big projects have Discord servers where members of the community can socialize and ask questions. A pro tip: switch off the setting on your Discord that says allow direct messages from server members. This will really help you to avoid spam and potential scams. And one thing I will say is I think there is a bit of a movement away from Discord for this very reason. It has almost become an attack vector for people who want to do scams. And because it is a private space, it means that kind of people bad actors can hide their actions. And I think there's a move to come more onto the public platforms such as Twitter and Instagram to kind of be more out in the open to hopefully stop people from kind of hiding their misdeeds and scamming people, as has been happening. And then last but not least, Twitter Spaces. As it says there, if you want to stay at the forefront of the NFT space, you should be on Twitter and more specifically on Twitter Spaces. A lot of spaces are people marketing their projects, but there are also a lot of really informative and educational spaces where you can learn about new projects and developments in the space. I've actually been thinking about starting kind of almost a daily space to just keep up with news. One thing you'll hear is that the NFT space is super early, but it moves super fast. A day in the NFT space is like a week or a month in the real world. So it's definitely a need to kind of stay up to date and to learn via kind of Twitter spaces. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm going to make a concerted effort to tweet out the really high quality spaces that I find. So if you are finding it a bit scary or you're getting a bit lost, feel free to follow me and I'll try and guide you there. Cool. Okay, so I will give people a minute just to kind of post and gather their questions. Before I do jump into them, I'm going to give myself another shameless plug. My NFT collection is dropping soon. I'm super excited about it. As a writer, I'm really trying to innovate in that kind of space between technology and literature. I've written an essay saying that the blockchain is a storytelling platform. So I'm really trying to kind of explore that thesis by kind of putting my money where my mouth is and putting my creativity where my mouth is as well. So definitely feel free to check that out. You can find me on Twitter here. Always happy to answer questions, and I curate NFTs, so I'm always looking out for really interesting collections, and you can find those if you follow me on Twitter. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a minute to gather your questions, and I will check out the questions, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, I'm back. Looks like we really only have one question. So Willie's asked about monetization models outside of trading. This is definitely a topic I will do some further research on and hopefully kind of add that to a future presentation. But what I will say is that trading is the primary way of monetizing on the NFT in NFTs right now, because most NFTs are, as I said at the beginning, art based, and it's about kind of buying art assets and selling art assets. I think an important way to look at the NFT space is as a platform. So think about iOS or Android. Those are platforms that you can make any kinds of apps on those platforms. The blockchain is really the same. You can make any kind of application on the blockchain or on a blockchain, and the monetization models are the same as in the real world. So right now it is kind of buying and selling, but I'm sure very soon we'll see subscription-based models on blockchains, as well as just everything that we see, advertising-based models on the blockchain, everything we see in the Web 2, kind of the internet as we know it space, we're going to see kind of that plus innovation on the blockchain. And I guess the only thing I'd add to that is I think the Amazon Kindle model is a really illustrative one. So right now you buy your Kindle book, you give Amazon your money, some of that money goes to the writer or the publisher. And the transaction more or less ends there. In the future with blockchain technology, you'll be able to sell on that book because the blockchain is transparent. The writer or the publishing company knows that you own the book, and they can give you other benefits, or they can kind of add some utility to the ownership of that particular book. So that's just an example of some of the things that we can imagine and that we will see in the future in the blockchain space. I'll give another couple of seconds for questions. Thank you all for joining me today. I am super grateful, and I hope that this has been useful. As I said, I am super interested in this space. Always happy to kind of dig deeper. So if there's anything that you didn't quite understand or that you would love to know more about, please let me know, and I will explore that for you. Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I'll stop and I'll say thank you so much. Appreciate your time and hope to see you in the space soon. Thanks.